Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Andy Brown from the Axis Group, and I'm joined this afternoon by Phil Gaffney from Monolith. Now, Phil is he's a general manager, and he's kindly agreed to join us, give up a bit of his time, give us an insight into their business and how they've been adapting rather to the change that they've all gone through of late over the last few months, and potentially how they're looking to the future as well as we come out of lockdown and into the recovery. So, Phil, thanks very much for joining us.
Yeah, no problem.
Good stuff. So would you mind giving us a little bit of background on your business and how you've been coping with change over the last few months?
Yeah, so the full title of our business is Monolith Brick and Stone. The nature of the business is to create modern building products, so not really traditional in the effects of traditional bricks, but rather brick cladding systems. And our stone products are lightweight, so they have polystyrene at the core of them, and they're coated with a composite mortar. So we produce a variety of variations of those products.
Fantastic. And how have you been affected over the last few months? Has production been impacted? Have you had to close down?
Yeah. So initially, it was as everyone thought at the time. The January, February, we were hearing news from around the world of how COVID was affecting different people, and I think we were all a bit naive, weren't we, thinking that it wasn't going to affect us?
Yeah.
But it certainly did. I think there was a crunch point around about the 24th of March for us, where we had to decide what are we going to do? Are we going to close? Are we going to carry on going? Initially, we did close for a few days just to try and figure out what we needed to do going forward. During that time, we spoke to some of our customers to see what they were doing to try and be driven by them. The government's directive was for the construction industry to carry on, but I think social pressure caused a lot of construction sites to close. There's a lot of negative press on social media and in the newspapers about construction sites. The pictures of groups of builders together in canteens and things like that, which really did cause a negative spin on things. So it did affect us initially. There were a lot of our smaller clients especially closed initially, and our bigger clients closed sites, although they had teams in place to try and generate work in the background. So we initially closed for about a week. And then we brought in a skeleton crew because we had a few outstanding orders. We thought, well, we'll just manufacture them and get them ready so that when things start, they'll be ready to go back we can deliver those straight away when people are ready for them.
Okay.
But what we found pretty much as soon as we reopened was we were getting phone calls, people were giving us inquiries, and it slowly started to snowball. In fact, we had to start bringing more and more people back. So work-wise, we've been getting busier and busier. And since initially being closed for a week, we've remained open, and we've slowly been increasing our quantities and production output.
That's great news. I guess a lot of construction sites are reopening now as well, aren't they? So
that's right, yeah.
People back to work.
So as regards the factory and working conditions,
sure.
Obviously, we've had to introduce social distancing measures. We try and maintain 2 meters. It's not always entirely possible, but as much as we physically can, we'll maintain those distances.
Have you got a big shop floor, so it's kind of easier to spread out a little bit? Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. So a lot of the things that the government have advised to put in place, we were already doing anyway. We've got stock of PPE.
Common sense stuff.
Yeah, we're working with dry powders, so it's a dusty environment. So we have dust masks anyway. We use gloves because we're using pigments and things, so we have disposable gloves. We had a decent stock, but I have managed to get more as well. We've introduced things like sanitizer stations. There are disinfectant sprays near enough at every door with disposable towels. So we put in place a lot of extra measures to try and protect people as much as possible. People who are vulnerable, so who have underlying health conditions, we've decided to keep them away from the business for the time being. So you know,
You're
we've
in
tried to
contact with those guys as well?
Yeah, that's it. We all stay in contact with each other. I mean, it's a very small business anyway. There's only 10 of us here, and we have agency staff who come as well when we need them. But we just communicate through WhatsApp groups. That way we can you know, we're all on the same page. One message can reach everyone.
Yeah,
Knows where everyone's up to. So it's it's been interesting, but for us it's been quite positive actually.
yeah, that's good. Is that in what way has it been positive? You know, staff interaction, staff coming together, that kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. There's definitely a togetherness now, positive attitude of wanting to get through this and make sure the business survives. So people are willing to just give that extra bit more, you know, a bit more time, a bit more effort, I think.
That's been a common thread of people I've spoken to, actually. People wanting to, you know, just go the extra mile to get things done and to keep everyone afloat.
Yeah, that's it. And I think that works both ways. So, you know, we're not putting as much pressure as maybe we would under normal circumstances on the staff.
Yeah.
Lots of commendation, encouraging and positive speech. So, yeah, it's.
Have you had areas of creativity as well? People come up with ideas about how to work or things to do differently?
For us, like I said, we try to be forward thinking.
Yeah.
And obviously because we're a factory and it's construction products, health and safety is quite high on our priority list anyway. So a lot of the things that have been advised, we've had in place anyway.
Okay.
The last couple of years, we've really focused on trying to simplify our processes, make it more efficient, and at the same time make it safer. So there's less heavy equipment, less heavy things to move around, less industrial equipment. So it's really made the transition a lot easier throughout this whole pandemic.
And how are you planning, you know, I suppose as people start turning towards the idea of coming out of lockdown and more towards a recovery, are you starting to see the green shoots of recovery now? It's been a good 2 months really, hasn't it, since we've been in this situation?
Yeah, I was quite surprised how busy we were in the peak of it. So end of March, mid-April, beginning of May, we've not slowed down. You know, the interest has been
really
well for even in a good time. The interest for us and the inquiries have been more than we're used to.
Really fantastic.
So I don't know if that's because we manufacture in the UK. A lot of our materials are sourced in the UK. So I know some customers are having difficulty getting supplies. So perhaps just the fact that we're open is of benefit, and word's spreading quite quickly.
Yeah.
Using mediums like LinkedIn have helped us to get the message out there that we're still open. People have given us inquiries, but yeah, definitely in the last few weeks, there's definitely a real movement in the industry. Things are opening again and moving forward, and we're getting some, because there was a housing shortage, you know, before this happened. That's not gone away.
Yes.
You know, there's a lot of construction work that needs to be done.
Well, the fundamentals haven't really changed, have they? It's just kind of moved to the right a little bit, shall we say, in terms of timescales. It sounds like you've weathered the storm pretty well, actually, and it also sounds like you're coming out of it, which is fantastic to see and hear as well. Good, you know, good news and positive stories there. Have you got any sort of takeaway messages or advice for businesses that wanting to remain operational like you have? Yeah,
well, I think the virus isn't going away, is it? I mean, as much as the infection rates might be reduced, or, you know, there might be a time in the near future where they say, you know, there's so little of it in the UK that we can pretty much go back to normal, but there's always that risk of a second spike. So until there's a vaccine or a cure, I think things are going to be different forever going forward, aren't they, until that point.
What people talk about, the new normal, don't they? A lot of that going on at the moment.
That's it. So I think it's just about staying vigilant. The things that we've implemented, just maintaining those. They're good practice anyway, so we should carry them on.
Yeah.
And to be in the routine of work, being able to interact with people, being in an environment that we can make as safe as possible. I think that's healthy, not just obviously for our physical health, but also our mental health, isn't it? That it's important that we get back to work. So I'd say,
and try and hang on to that team spirit, it sounds like, as well.
Yeah, that's it. I'd say to businesses not to be so scared that they don't do anything. I think that's the worst thing to do is not to do anything, but maybe just count the cost of implementing these control measures and maybe acquiring additional PPE. Do risk assessment methods, look at your environment, see how you can make it safe for people, for your staff. And it is important that we get back to work for the economy and for our mental health.
Absolutely. Well, good stuff, Phil. Thank you very much for your time today. Appreciate you taking time out to have this chat.